Good morning and welcome to another episode of Josh and Pat. I'm Joshua Klein, joined by Patrick Casson, and this episode is brought to you by our Patreon. If you enjoy the show and want to support, the link is in the description. But yesterday, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys got dominated by Brett Favre's reincarnate, Aaron Rodgers' reincarnate, Jordan Love. Now, at the beginning of the season, if you remember, I said he wasn't going to suck. Turns out, he's a lot better than doesn't suck. Jordan Love was making throws that we just couldn't fathom him making when he got drafted over any wide receiver for the Packers. When Aaron Rodgers was going for 3 MVPs, we just couldn't understand that. Now, the question has to be asked are the Cowboys going to be done with Dak? That's question number one. And two, right. I think we all owe Gutekunst an apology. And from the bottom of my heart, Patrick, I'm going to say this. Gutekunst, Packers GM, I wasn't familiar with your game.
I was unfamiliar. We were unfamiliar.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't believe it.
Look, the Packers, I'll tell you what. I don't know how they do it. Year in, year out. Good for them. They figured it out. But right. You know who hasn't figured it out? It's Dallas. And I want to applaud. There's one guy I want to applaud.
Right.
Dak Prescott. He said, if Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat, I'm there with him too.
Right.
And yeah, man. I don't know if that's what I would be saying.
Right, because I think he meant that in saying that Mike McCarthy shouldn't be on the hot seat. But what he really was saying was, oh, then Dak Prescott's on the hot seat, because Mike McCarthy is 100% on the hot seat, and I'm not
is
saying
he on the hot seat?
I'm not saying Bill Belichick's already on the flight, but he's already
that's
there.
That's what I mean. Like I think McCarthy's past the hot seat. Like I think he's fired.
Right.
Yeah, he's done.
Right. His seat's probably like lukewarm right now because he's no. His seat is standing. He doesn't even have a seat.
He's standing. Yeah. He doesn't have it. The seat's gone.
Right. So that's an interesting thing that you bring up there. Yeah, Dak Prescott, he's good. Here's the problem: is that everyone's going to say, look at the numbers, because Dak, there's two types of quarterbacks. There's stat quarterbacks and there's like film tape quarterbacks. Right. Dak Prescott, very much stat quarterback. Stats tell you this guy's all world. This guy's top 3 in the NFL.
Josh, you had 41 completions yesterday.
Right. What the film tells me is that he might not be the reason they're winning games.
Yeah, but Josh, I was told up until quite literally possibly last Sunday, that, I mean, this guy should have been MVP. He should be MVP.
I was told last night in the broadcast he was top 3 for MVP.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that one.
Right. Now, it's MVP, the regular season award. We're not talking about postseason. So
no, it's not. I mean, voting's already done, Josh. You got to understand
that's the good thing, right? So that helps him out a little bit. I will be curious to see what they do moving forward, whether they stick with Dak, whether they stick with Mike McCarthy. I mean, no. I don't know. It feels like there's going to be a lot of change potentially coming in Dallas, because here's the thing. You can only do the same thing so long without making a change before. That's just insanity. And so
I think it's easy.
They've reached that point, I think.
Right. I think if you're Dallas, it's easy. You bring in a coach like Bill Belichick, but you have to bring his culture and the formula that he is installed. You have to go get a guy, maybe that's going to be a cheaper value than Dak Prescott. You have to go get a guy that was a proven college winner, was a proven first-round draft pick in the NFL. I mean, I'm sure there's a guy up in New England called Mac Jones right now that they're willing to trade. I think if you bring him to Dallas, I mean, you team up him and Bill, that's probably one way to get out of this.
Right. And you know what's interesting? I actually did think about this last night. Not Mac Jones specifically, but I thought about the Rams and the Lions and how they made that trade, Jared Goff for Matt Stafford. And it almost felt like a 1-for-1 trade. Like they both needed a change at quarterback. They both needed something new in the building. obviously the Rams go on win a Super Bowl. The Lions win their first playoff game in 23 seasons.
which is essentially a Super Bowl.
What's the equivalent of that for the Cowboys? Because I don't think Dak's necessarily a bad quarterback, but I think he needs a change. So what's like the Dak Prescott equivalent of a team that has a guy who also maybe...
It would be Justin Fields right now. And I know it's not mano a mano to make sense, but it would be Justin Fields right now, the guy that's available. You bring in Justin Fields, you give him a new contract, you give him a new place. He takes over, he goes to the next level.
Right.
Well, the Bears would get Dak Prescott, and that would be probably the Bears' best quarterback they've ever had.
Right.
And so I think that would probably be the closest equivalent we could get to this offseason.
And that's actually kind of works out because Dak Prescott is just Caleb Williams. So instead of drafting Caleb Williams,
you get the prove it guy.
You get the proven one, and then you can go out and you draft Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, that's
and a left tackle, and then boom, next thing you know, your franchise is fixed.
Right. I mean, did we just fix the Bears?
I think we did.
That wasn't even on my agenda for the show.
No, it wasn't. But you know what? Chicago, you're welcome.
You're welcome, Chicago. Looking at the other playoff game that happened yesterday, Patrick, we just talked about it briefly. The Lions, they got their first win in 23 seasons. First playoff win, I believe. It was 23, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go beat a Rams team, which I said I thought was the NFC favorite. I thought they had the best chance of beating the 49ers. Maybe I was just too fixated on how they played the Ravens that specific day. And I looked at, 49ers, they got the snot beat out of them by the Ravens. The Rams, they hung tough. I think the Rams are better. But turns out, Lions, the Ravens metric is not working because the Ravens murdered the Lions. And Lions beat a close one against the Rams.
Yeah, Ravens metric's a bit off, but this is what I have to say. I mean, I guess I'm happy for the city of Detroit for finally getting a playoff win and for their fans getting that. They got some bad karma coming to them next week.
Right.
Because the way they treat it, their wonder boy, Matthew Stafford, who quite literally, blood, sweat, and tears he gave the franchise. And it wasn't his fault.
Did he cry? Do we know that?
Well, I'm probably behind the scenes at one point. I'm willing to put that out there. I'm saying from 2008 to 2020,
right?
He probably cried at least one time.
Probably, yeah. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, right. So I'm willing to bet that one. What they did, I mean, they got bad karma coming to them. It's pretty easy, Josh. The first time that he comes out, you give him a big standing ovation, and then after that, you root like hell against him. Right. And instead, they gave no recognition to what he did for that city. And for a team that needs as much good mojo as they can get, I mean, they're not helping themselves here. I mean, Lions fans should be ashamed of themselves this morning.
Patrick, I completely disagree. I think they did exactly what they're supposed to do. Everybody knows this. And this is why I will only bet on the Ravens if I go to the game. Because when you're in that stadium, you play a factor in that game. You have a voice. It might be a very small voice, but you have a voice. When you go to that stadium, it's your responsibility as a fan, as part of the team, to do everything you can for the other team to lose. Now, going out and booing the guy who you loved and you loved for a long time and he loved you, I mean, that's probably the best thing that you could have done to get in his head psychologically. And so they said, we're going to do that.
They booed him before he even took a snap, and then he went out and he lit him up in the first half, and arguably lit him up in the second half if it wasn't for some questionable calls.
What about this though? What if he plays even better if they don't boo him?
I don't know if that was possible. I mean, the guy was throwing 40-yard touchdowns. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Are you saying that if they cheered him, that maybe there's a chance though he would have got swept up in the emotions, and that would have caused him to play worse?
Maybe he gets too comfortable, because you got to imagine he was a loser when he was in Detroit when they cheered him. So if they cheered him again, it's like, wait, I'm not a winner. I'm a loser.
That's a great point. You're right. That flipped my perspective on this. They should have cheered. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not because it
he
was the right
doesn't-
thing to do. Not because it was the right thing to do, but as your fan, it's your obligation to do whatever it takes to win.
And he's a proven loser when Lions fans cheer for him.
Right. I would say good for Jared Goff though, going against his former team. That guy took them
Scored 3
to
points in the second half.
That guy took them to the Super Bowl, and they kicked him to the curb. So it's good that he goes back and
Quite
he gets
literally
the win
scored 3
there.
points in the second half.
Well, they say you only need to score 1 point to win.
You need you actually. you
Well,
kinda
I
need to
mean,
score
in
2
theory,
points.
you only need one.
Right. So
You
you
know?
need to get at least 2.
Exactly. So I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, moving on. Caleb Williams is going to declare for the draft. We briefly talked about him today. Now, Patrick, Caleb Williams is a guy who, at the beginning of the year, he was talked about like the second coming of Patrick Mahomes, but not necessarily his play style, but like maybe Tom Brady too. It just felt like he was the most hyped quarterback I have ever seen from like a draft perspective. Then he goes out and he just doesn't win any big games in college. He just loses them all. If there's a big game and he has the opportunity to win, he lost it. So then we're like, okay, this guy good? We really don't know. And now he's kind of like in this like weird spot where people are saying there's better quarterbacks than him in the draft. When for a
Right.
minute there, he wasn't even on the same stratosphere, atmosphere, whatever level of the planet that
Right.
the rest of the guys were on. So where do you see this all unfolding, and do you think this is the right call for him?
Yeah, I'm starting to think maybe we're overthinking Caleb Williams here. We said he was
Right.
good, so maybe he is good. But I think
Right,
there's
okay.
2 really good fits for Caleb Williams. When you look, like you said, Josh, when you look at his track record, he has not won a lot of big games, but he does get the job done against the teams he's supposed to be. So 2 teams come to mind.
I know
and,
exactly who you're thinking. Okay, go.
Yeah, I think the Miami Dolphins could really use a
Right.
guy like that.
Right.
That would be really helpful if they want to move on from Tua. And then another guy that we just said, he put himself on the hot seat. I think the Dallas Cowboys could use a guy like Caleb Williams.
Right. It's like go with the younger Dak.
Right, and you restart that contract over. So really it's a value play if you think about it.
Right. Because here's the thing. If you could just find a Dak Prescott to draft every 5 years, the Cowboys are going to be sitting pretty for a long time.
Right.
You just got to find those guys to get in there. Caleb Williams, I think that he's still going to be obviously top 3 draft picks.
He's top 2. I'd say he's top 2 at least.
Right. Depends on what the Bears do.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this. He might not be as good as I once thought. And I'm not saying that he's a bust, but the last time we hyped up a quarterback this much was Trevor Lawrence, and look what Trevor Lawrence is doing. He's not even he's
Well, he's
sitting
got
at
that
home
one
right
playoff
now.
victory. He's got that
Right.
one playoff victory.
Right, and
when we look at it in hindsight, I don't know if it was much of a playoff victory as it was just Chargers going to Charger.
Right. I mean, that was the start of the end for Staley, and some people say that he should have lost his job that night.
Yeah, and he didn't. So, look, I mean, life was a lot easier about a year ago when the biggest thing against Caleb Williams was just that he paints his nails. And
Yeah, that wasn't good, was it?
no, but that the start of the downfall for him?
It might have been. It's like Spencer Rattler. Remember that guy? He was going to be
guy.
the number 1 quarterback in the world one time.
I never forget, he got kicked off his high school football team for undisclosed reasons.
Right. So getting a lot like parallels there, but no.
Yeah.
I do think I don't know. If you can't win, that's usually an indicator of probably not going to be great. But then again, we had quarterbacks this year who started in the NFL who barely beat the School of Mines or School of Miners.
It was, I mean,
so
and
there's
that's
a
great.
lot
And then
of openings up.
Well, right, and then you've also had quarterbacks that have proven to be winners, have gone 2-1, and teams hate them, like PJ Walker. So it's like you don't understand.
We don't know. Eagles Buccaneers preview, Patrick. Here's what I'll say about this game. I've been saying it the whole year. Let bake, and things are going to be a piece of cake. That's what they have to do. You let Baker go out there and sling the rock, throw it to Mike Evans, and I don't see why the Buccaneers don't win this by at least 3.
Right. I don't see why they don't win it by at least 4, Josh. And that's as high as I'm willing to go. and
Well,
I think
you should at most 4 then is what you would meant to say.
yeah, right. That's exactly. And and so there's 2 things that has been near and dear to this show's heart for this football season. And we were ahead of the curve. And people laughed at us.
They did.
Throughout
the season. Really mad at us, actually.
We said that the Eagles are frauds.
Right.
And that if you let Baker bake, the Buccaneers are good. So we get the perfect matchup here. And it would be a sin. It would be an absolute travesty if I were to pick the Philadelphia Eagles.
Would be.
And so I can't do that. I mean, they're down their number 1 receiver. I'm
Yep.
not even sure how much Jalen Hurts has thrown the ball. And I certainly do not trust the quitter, Marcus Mariota. I mean, you let Baker bake in front of that Tampa Bay crowd. You got to take the Buccaneers here.
Right. And I might go put a bet on that. I don't know what the spread is, but I think it's gonna.
You know what? I'll match.
I think it's gonna be good. Now, we don't have to preview this game. We already well, technically that episode. But so Bills game, Patrick. What do we got? What do we got there? We got Bills playing the Steelers. Now, the spread's kind of big on this game, but we're also concerned that due to weather conditions, we might not be able to score points. So, the fact that they still think the Bills are going to win by like double digits, it's kind of impressive.
I'm not so sure that it's going to be snowing though by 4:30.
Oh.
So you get that feel clear.
Right.
And then we're just dealing with cold. And I think they can deal with the cold.
Right.
And so if this game was played on Sunday, I was really dabbling with the Steelers because I was talking myself into, maybe they just run the ball. They play a little Steelers football. You get the yellow pants out there. And now that this game's on Monday, I'm back. I'm big on the Bills. I think the Bills just take care of the Steelers. They don't have TJ Watt. So what are you going to do?
It's unfortunate. And it sucks because, I want the Steelers to lose. So, as a Ravens fan, we have a lot of different scenarios of who's going to play the number 1 seed. If the Steelers win, it's going to be the Steelers. If they don't win, it's going to be the Texans. And so, what's which team would I rather face there? I think I'd almost rather face the Steelers right now. But I also really don't want the Steelers to have the satisfaction of winning a playoff game. So, I'm in a tough bind.
Yeah, I think if we can get this game to go to double overtime,
can it end in a tie?
No.
They're just
how could it possibly? Josh, how could you possibly end it in a tie?
Can I say this is what I believe, Patrick? Okay? My thing is, I think that in the playoffs, there should be a rule that if a game's tied long enough, not make it a long time, both teams get eliminated at a certain point. I think
so. If it's not, if it at the end of the second overtime, if it's still tied, both teams are done.
Right, and then the Ravens would then get another bye. It would be whatever the seed is next. So because the lowest seed and the number 2 seed were gone, the number 1 seed would then get an extra bye. Only in that first round there that happens.
Right. So then what if it happened in the second round?
Well, we'd have to look at how it was.
How about it's one more overtime for every round? It's
just the highest seed gets to go to. If it happened in the second round, do we just send the highest seed to the Super Bowl? I don't know about that.
Right. So, but then what happened if it happened in the Super Bowl? Do you start next year 0-1?
That's a great. Okay, that's where the Super Bowl one is an interesting one. I guess you have to have a winner in the Super Bowl. Maybe.
No. I think if you give out, two participation trophies, be like, thanks for coming.
Okay, I think that's fine too. Yeah, but I do think
Yeah.
I think that'd be such an interesting rule because then you'd be sweating. Like it's like, oh shoot, like we're really close. Like both of us are done, and then you get to the point like, do you guys start like for instance,
There's
what
a collusion.
if your team is like the 7th seed and you're like, hey, I know we don't have the offensive capability of going down there and score right now, but what we can do is try to prevent their team from scoring and then just
Right. So I'm gonna
go down with the
So
ship.
I'm actually right, and I'm just gonna punt on second down.
Right. So like that would be pretty electric, I think, to just say, hey, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure they don't move forward. I just think it'd be a great rule change. I just think it'd be awesome because how many games actually go to that double overtime? But if you can't get it done by then, that's on you.
Yeah. It's good. I think we got to review this rule in the offseason.
Thank you. I mean, it's better than banning the tush push, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree.
It's cool. Josh and Pat updates. Patrick, what do you got going on in your day today?
Yeah.
It's happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yes.
See, I'm
is,
not really familiar with what Martin Luther King Sr. was up to. So I don't. Does he have a day as well or no?
Probably his birthday, and I don't know if that's the same day. I
Got
mean,
it.
that would be quite a coincidence.
Would be.
Yeah, no, I mean, Josh and Pat updates. I mean, it's good. What I enjoyed this weekend, Josh, is I enjoyed a stress-free round one, and that's
That's
what
very
I'm
nice.
thankful for.
Eh,
And it's
Yeah.
always good to get that. And
Right.
I have a feeling come Saturday at 4:30, it's time to lock in. And I don't think it's going to be Sunday at 6. I think it's going to be Saturday at 4:30, and we're going to be ready.
I just feel like. And here's the thing. I was debating making plans on Saturday, and then I was like, wait, I can't make because I just felt like we were going to play on Saturday. I just feel like if we're not in that prime times nighttime spot, it's kind of like a travesty
Why?
because we're clearly the most entertaining team to watch. Like we're clearly the team that but we're the team that people have the most like, what are they going to do? Because Lamar Jackson hasn't had a great playoff history, but they were the most dominant team this year. Like that's what everybody wants to see. Everybody wants to watch the Ravens.
Right, but more people want to watch probably the Chiefs.
Okay.
I'm just
Put them on.
go by the ratings.
Put them on Sunday night.
They are.
So then Saturday night could be the Ravens.
Well, I think they would rather have the Lions.
Really? But who are the Lions playing?
just
They're
saying.
playing.
Lions will be playing the Eagles or the Bucks.
So, yeah, Lions Bucks doesn't move the needle as much as Ravens, whoever.
Texans. I mean, nobody watches the Texans, is what the ratings tell you.
Well, they're Texas's new team now, though.
They are. That's true. I mean, Stroud boys stand up.
Right. So that tells me that means something.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't have any updates for me.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Josh.
Yeah, no updates for me other than just today's gonna be a nice day of football, I think, and we're really excited about that. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching the show. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, like, comment, and subscribe. Go to picksandpancakes.com to read everything happening in sports, and we'll see you guys on Friday for another episode of Josh and Pat, and tonight for our TikTok live stream. A peace.
Nice.